Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really zeroing in on, well, a huge part of global healthcare.
That's right. The market for antihypertensive drugs. We're looking specifically at 2025 projections.
Exactly. We've got this pretty detailed market report as our source.
Yeah.
It's packed with analysis, projections, trends, really the whole picture for drugs treating high blood pressure.
And our mission really is to unpack that for you. We want you to walk away with a clear sense of, the market size, what's pushing its growth, the main companies involved.
And how it looks different around the world, because the regional variations are quite something.
They really are. We'll highlight some maybe surprising growth spots and which types of treatments are really dominating the field right now. It's about giving you that shortcut to being informed.
Okay, let's dive straight in then. So this report, it's saying the global market for these drugs, these hypertension treatments, is projected to hit nearly, what, $33 billion in 2025?
USD, 32,840 million, yeah. Just about $33 billion, a massive number already.
But it's not stopping there, is it? The growth forecast is pretty striking.
It is. They're projecting it reaches over $47 billion, 47,060 million to be exact by 2033.
Wow.
Yeah, and that translates to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of about 4.6% every year between 2025 and 2033.
Okay, 4.6% annually. For a market that big, that's pretty robust growth.
It definitely signals some strong forces at play.
So what are those forces? What's actually driving this? Is it just, more older people globally?
Well, the growing geriatric population is certainly a big piece of the puzzle. Risk definitely goes up with age.
Right.
But it's more than that. The report emphasizes the increasing prevalence of hypertension itself. So more people across different age groups are getting diagnosed.
Okay, so diagnosis rates are up too.
Exactly. And then there's this trend towards using combination therapies. Doctors are increasingly prescribing maybe 2 or more drugs together.
To get better control?
Precisely, for better blood pressure control. It's often a more effective strategy, maybe more tailored to the individual patient.
Makes sense. A complex problem sometimes needs more than one tool.
Yeah.
Now, that's the global view, but you mentioned regional differences. I assume North America is a big player.
Oh, absolutely. It's currently the largest market by a significant margin, holds over 40% of the global revenue.
40%.
Yeah. The market size there in 2025 is pegged at just over $12 billion, USD 12,150 million.
And the growth rate there, is it matching that global 4.6%?
A bit slower, actually. The projected CAGR for North America through 2033 is around 3.1%. Still growing, but not as fast as some other regions we'll get to.
Interesting. And within North America, the U.S. must dominate.
It does, significantly. The U.S. market is estimated at about $9.6 billion in 2025. That's 9,586 million.
Okay, and its growth.
Forecasted at about 2.9% annually. The drivers there seem to be that combination of a large aging population and, importantly, access to a wide range of advanced treatment options.
Right. What about Canada and Mexico?
Canada's looking at around $1.46 billion in 2025, with a slightly healthier growth rate than the U.S., actually about 3.9% CAGR.
Why the difference, do you think?
The report suggests maybe a combination of their own aging population, plus maybe stronger public health awareness campaigns around cardiovascular health.
Okay, and Mexico?
Mexico comes in around $1.1 billion, with growth projected at 3.6% annually. So pretty comparable growth to Canada, just a smaller overall market size.
Got it. So North America leads in size, but maybe not in future growth speed. Let's hop across the pond. Europe.
Europe's the next biggest piece, holding over 30% of the global revenue.
30%, okay.
Market size there, roughly $9.5 billion in 2025, with an expected growth rate of about 3.7% per year through 2033.
So slightly faster growth than North America overall.
Yes, just slightly. But the really interesting thing in Europe is the variation within the continent.
Ah, okay. Give us some highlights.
Well, you've got the UK, for example, a pretty big market, almost $1.6 billion, and growing quite strongly at 4.5% annually.
Why so high in the UK?
Could be linked to specific government health initiatives focused on hypertension detection and management. Then there's Germany, even larger at nearly $1.9 billion, growing at 3.9%.
And for Germany?
Likely fueled by their strong R&D base in pharmaceuticals. Lots of innovation happening there.
Makes sense. Any others stand out?
Well, France and Italy are significant markets, though growing a bit slower, around 2.9% and 3.1% respectively. But then you see smaller countries like Luxembourg projected at 4.0% growth.
Really? Luxembourg.
Yeah, from a much smaller base, of course, around $114 million. But it shows how local factors can really drive growth even in smaller economies. Russia's also a fairly large market, about $1.47 billion, but with slower growth projected at 2.7%.
Okay, so a real mix across Europe. Now, Asia-Pacific. You hinted the growth story might be different there.
Oh, absolutely. This is where the growth dynamic really shifts. APAC holds about 23% of the global revenue now.
Okay, so smaller share than Europe currently.
Right, around $7.9 billion, let's say, in 2025, but the projected CAGR, a whopping 7.3% through 2033. 7.3%. That's huge compared to North America and Europe.
It really is. This is clearly flagged as the major growth engine for the future in this market.
So who's leading the charge in APAC? China.
China's definitely a huge part of it. Their market is around $3.3 billion and expected to grow at 6.8% annually.
Still very strong growth. What's driving it there?
Similar factors to elsewhere, but maybe amplified. Rapidly aging population, yes, but also rising rates of obesity and high smoking prevalence are major contributors.
Okay. But is China the fastest growing? You said 7.3% for the region overall?
Good point. No, China isn't the absolute fastest. Look at India. Its market is smaller, maybe $788 million in 2025,
Right.
but projected to grow at an incredible 9.2% per year.
9.2. Wow. Any specific reasons cited for India?
Yeah, the report mentions government programs targeting non-communicable diseases like the NPNCD program, likely having a big impact on diagnosis and treatment rates.
Fascinating. Anywhere else with that kind of explosive growth? Southeast Asia as a bloc is also highlighted places like Singapore, Taiwan, and the broader SEA region, showing growth rates often above 7%, even reaching 8.1% for Southeast Asia collectively.
So the takeaway for APAC is massive growth potential, especially in India and Southeast Asia, even beyond the already large Chinese market.
Precisely. It's a key region to watch.
What about the other regions? South America?
South America accounts for a smaller slice, just over 5% globally. Market size around $1.25 billion in 2025.
And growth.
Pretty solid, actually. Projected CAGR is 5.3%, so faster than North America or Europe, but not quite APAC levels.
Who are the main players there?
Brazil's the largest, definitely. Around $534 million market size, growing at 5.9%. Factors like urbanization, obesity, dietary changes are mentioned.
Okay.
Argentina is interesting, too. Smaller market, about $210 million, but with a projected growth of 6.2%.
Higher than Brazil's growth.
Yeah, possibly boosted by a relatively strong domestic pharmaceutical industry there. Colombia, Peru, Chile follow, all with growth rates above 5%.
Okay. And rounding out the globe, Middle East and Africa, how do they fit in?
The Middle East is about 2% of the global share. Market size roughly $1.3 billion in 2025.
Growth.
Quite strong, forecast at 5.9% annually. Similar to Brazil's rate.
Which countries are key there?
Saudi Arabia is the largest market, $462 million, followed by the UAE, $270 million, both showing growth over 6%. Turkey also shows strong growth, 6.5%, potentially linked to increases in obesity, smoking, and diabetes in the population. Qatar and Egypt are smaller, but still contributing.
Right. And finally, Africa.
Africa currently represents the smallest regional market, around 1% of global revenue, maybe $722 million in 2025.
But is it growing?
Yes, still respectable growth projected at 4.9% annually. Not quite the APAC explosion, but solid.
Key markets in Africa.
South Africa is the largest by far, around $254 million, growing at a healthy 5.8%. Nigeria is next, around $58 million, growing at 5.1%.
Nigeria has a high burden of hypertension, doesn't it?
It does. The report mentions that potentially tied to genetic factors as well as lifestyle changes.
Okay, that's a fantastic global tour. So summing up the geography, North America dominates now, but watch APAC, especially India and Southeast Asia, for the really rapid expansion. Europe and South America are growing steadily, Middle East too, and Africa is smaller but still growing.
That captures it well.
Right. Now, let's shift from where to how. How are these conditions actually treated? The report breaks it down by therapy type, I believe.
Yes, it does. And perhaps a bit predictably, diuretics are expected to still hold the largest share of the market.
The old standbys. Why is that?
Well, major medical bodies, think the American Heart Association, European Society of Hypertension, INEC, in the UK, they often recommend diuretics as a first-line therapy for mental patients.
How do they work again, basically?
They essentially help your kidneys flush out excess sodium and water. This lowers the volume of blood circulating and can also relax blood vessel walls over time. Plus, they're generally inexpensive and have a long track record.
Okay, so they're the established workhorse. But you mentioned surprising growth earlier. Does that apply here?
It absolutely does. The report identifies calcium channel blockers, or CCBs, as the fastest growing segment among therapy types.
Ah, okay. And why is that? What do CCBs do differently?
They work by stopping calcium from entering the muscle cells in your heart and blood vessel walls. This causes the blood vessels to relax and widen vasodilation, making it easier for blood to flow, and it reduces the heart's workload.
Who benefits the most from those?
They seem particularly useful for older patients, especially those with what's called isolated systolic hypertension. They also offer good long-term control, often without needing lots of dose changes, and can be good for patients who also have other issues like angina or certain heart rhythm problems.
So while diuretics lead, CCBs are gaining ground fast due to these specific benefits.
Exactly. They're carving out a very significant and growing niche.
And just for context, what other drug classes are in the mix?
Oh, there are several others. The report mentions ACE inhibitors, angiotensin-converting enzyme inhibitors, and ARBs. Angiotensin receptor blockers, those are very common too.
Right.
Then you have beta blockers, vasodilators, renin inhibitors, alpha blockers. Quite a range of mechanisms to target blood pressure.
A whole toolkit.
Hmm.
Okay, so therapy types. Diuretics lead, CCBs grow fastest. Now, what about the type of hypertension being treated? Primary versus secondary.
Right, the report segments that too. Primary hypertension, that's high blood pressure without a clear single underlying cause, sometimes called essential hypertension, that holds the largest market share currently.
Because it's more common. Or better diagnosed.
Likely a combination of both. It is the most common type, and awareness and screening have improved, leading to earlier diagnosis and treatment.
But is the market for secondary hypertension, where there is an underlying cause, changing?
Yes, that segment is actually expanding more rapidly.
Why would that be?
It's largely down to the increasing prevalence of the conditions that cause secondary hypertension. Think chronic kidney disease, that's a big one. Also, various endocrine or hormonal disorders, things like Cushing's syndrome, hyperthyroidism, adrenal gland issues, and even certain medications can induce hypertension. As these underlying conditions become more common or better recognized, the market for treating the resulting secondary hypertension grows.
That makes sense. Treating the root cause or managing its effects. Okay, next angle. Are patients usually on just one drug or multiple? Monotherapy versus combination.
Good question. Right now, monotherapy using just one medication still accounts for the largest slice of the market. It's often the starting point, especially for milder cases.
But I sense a but coming.
But the real momentum, the faster growth, is definitely in combination therapy.
Using two or more drugs together.
Exactly. And specifically, what are called fixed-dose combinations, or FDCs. These are single pills that contain 2, sometimes even 3, different antihypertensive medications.
Ah, the combo pills. Why are they growing so fast? Convenience.
Convenience is a huge factor, absolutely. It's much easier for patients to take 1 pill a day instead of 2 or 3. This generally leads to better adherence. People are more likely to actually take their medication as prescribed.
Which is crucial for long-term conditions like hypertension.
Totally crucial. And the report mentions common combos like losartan plus a diuretic or amlodipine plus valsartan. New FDCs are getting regulatory approval too, which also fuels this growth.
Okay, so single pills dominate now, but combo pills are the future trend. Where are people actually getting these meds? Distribution channels?
Hospital pharmacies currently hold the largest market share here.
Really? Why hospitals?
They're critical for managing more severe or complex cases resistant hypertension, maybe patients needing IV medications, or those requiring very close monitoring when starting new potent drugs.
Okay, the acute or complex end.
Right. But similar to the therapy types, the fastest growing channel is actually retail pharmacies.
Your local chemist or drugstore.
Exactly. The growth there is driven by sheer convenience and accessibility. More locations, longer hours, including those 2047 chains. It's just easier for most people managing chronic hypertension day to day.
And online pharmacies, are they making inroads?
They're mentioned, yes, as part of the landscape and likely growing too, but retail pharmacies are identified as the main growth driver in terms of distribution channels right now.
Got it. Hospital pharmacies lead, retail grows fastest. Okay, we've sliced and diced this budget quite a bit. Let's pull back again. What are the big overarching forces? Drivers, restraints, trends?
Sure. The main drivers are pretty much what we touched on earlier. One, the rising prevalence of hypertension globally. Two, the aging population worldwide.
Right.
And three, lifestyle factors linked to urbanization, diet changes. Less physical activity, more stress, all contributing.
Okay, those are pushing the market up. What's holding it back or acting as a restraint?
Two key things mentioned. First, patent expirations. When major blockbuster drugs lose patent protection, cheaper generic versions flood the market.
Which is good for patients and healthcare systems, but maybe dampens revenue growth for the originators.
Exactly. It introduces significant price competition. The second restraint is side effects and adverse reactions. While generally safe, these drugs aren't without potential side effects, which can unfortunately lead some patients to stop taking them.
Affecting adherence again. Okay. And what about future trends? What should we be watching for?
Well, ongoing R&D is a big one. Companies are always looking for drugs that are more effective, have fewer side effects, or maybe only need to be taken once a day or even less frequently.
Makes sense.
There's also a growing focus on personalized medicine, the idea of tailoring drug choice or dosage based on someone's genetics, for example. Pharmacogenomics, it's still early days for hypertension, but it's a trend.
Tailoring the treatment to the individual.
Right. And finally, that trend we already discussed, the continued growth in demand for those convenient fixed-dose combination therapies. That's expected to keep going strong.
Okay. Drivers, restraints, trends. Lastly, who are the companies actually competing in this huge space?
It's a very competitive landscape, as you'd expect. You have the big, established pharmaceutical giants investing heavily in developing next-gen therapies.
Trying to find the next blockbuster.
Pretty much. But you also have a really strong presence from generic manufacturers, especially as major patents expire. They're capturing significant market share with cost-effective alternatives.
So innovation versus generics.
And layered on top is that push towards personalized medicine, which is starting to influence R&D strategies as well. The report lists several key players, names you'd recognize.
Like who?
Companies like Sanofi, Novartis, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Merck, Johnson & Johnson, Boehringer Ingelheim, Daiichi Sankyo. Also major generic players like Lupin and Sun Pharma, which includes Ranbaxy. It's a mix of global innovators and large-scale generic producers.
Right, a real battleground. Okay, let's try and wrap this up. Summarizing this deep dive into the 2025 anti-hypertensive drug market, what are the main takeaways?
I'd say, one, it's a massive market, already nearly $33 billion and still growing steadily at around 4.6% globally.
Okay.
Two, North America is the current leader in market size, but the really dynamic, fast growth is happening in Asia-Pacific, particularly India and Southeast Asia. That's the region to watch.
Got it. Growth engine in APAC.
Three, treatment-wise, diuretics remain foundational, but calcium channel blockers are the fastest-growing drug class. And there's a clear, strong shift towards using combination therapies, especially fixed-dose combo pills, for convenience and adherence.
Combo pills are gaining traction.
Four, patent expiries and the resulting generic competition are major factors shaping the market economics. And finally, the competitive landscape involves intense R&D for better drugs, the rise of generics, and early steps towards more personalized treatment approaches.
That's a great summary. Established treatments meet new approaches, regional dynamics are shifting, and economics definitely play a role.
Absolutely. It's a complex interplay driving this vital healthcare market.
So, thinking about all of that, the aging world, the huge growth in some regions, but maybe affordability issues there, the move to combo drugs, the potential of personalized medicine. Here's something for you, our listeners, to chew on. What do you see as the biggest challenge or maybe the biggest opportunity in tackling hypertension globally over the next, say, 10 years?
Interesting question.
Will it be about just getting existing affordable drugs like diuretics to everyone who needs them in developing countries? Or will the focus shift more towards lifestyle changes versus relying solely on pills? Or perhaps the real breakthrough will come from truly individualizing treatment based on genetics or other biomarkers?
Lots to consider there.
Definitely. It's a complex picture, and the market reflects that complexity. Thanks for diving deep with us today.